I am delighted to welcome Elżbieta Bieńkowska, the European Commissioner for the Internal Market, Industry, Entrepreneurship and SMEs. As I say, Commissioner, we have had two panel discussions today. In the first, which we entitled The Global Outlook, we looked at the way the global landscape is changing and what that means for Europe. So those external pressures that we need to respond to. Then we began to look from the inside out, so what we need to do to conquer competitiveness in these times of change. In this session, we're going to take that Juncker Commission mantra of being big on the big things and small on the small, and discuss what do we really need to be big on? Where does the focus need to be for the future, both to respond to those external and internal challenges? So it's great to have you with us to kickstart that discussion. Commissioner, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jackie, for your introduction. President Marsegalia, it was a great pleasure, I hope also for you, to listen to Prime Minister Rutte, because it's largely on member state sides. This is a both shared responsibility, how we use the full potential of the single market. And it's really, for me, it was personally very important to hear from the Prime Minister of current presidency in the European Council such warm and welcoming words for the single market. This is really important. And of course, I also appreciate hearing your views, businesses, because I told about shared responsibility. This is shared between European institutions, member states of the Council, and the businesses, definitely all of the stakeholders. But for my portfolio, which name is single market, not internal market, it's extremely important. Sorry for saying this, but for me it means a little bit, it sounds a little bit differently, single than internal, so I prefer to call it single market. So as the speakers today, I was brief about it before, have underlined, we are facing tests of the EU and Europe on a scale that we have never seen before. Those tests are political, they are economic, of course, and we in the Commission also, from my personal perspective, we are very much involved and focused on handling sometimes crisis situation. In my cases, it was firearms, steel crisis, Volkswagen case. All of those topics are in my portfolio. So, you know, during last year, I was quite engaged also in such very important, but still single issues. But in dealing with this crisis, we should not forget the underlying trends. So what needs to be done? Speaking about being big on big things and small on small. It was repeated many times by Prime Minister Rutte. We need more investments and innovation, definitely. Because not having enough investments, not having enough innovation, not being more modernized and digitalized, because modernization is much wider than digitalization only, it's really hurting our job creation, it hurts our growth, and we are not just failing to create jobs now, but what is even, I think, even more important, we are failing in create job for the future. So when you ask what the big things for the Commission is, the answer is really very simple. Turning the situation around, creating more jobs and more growth for now and for the future. What we want to do, and how we want to do it. We will do it by abandoning the old approach. So, first thing first, we don't think about variety of new regulations. You know, as you probably as you were observing this previously, it looks like that there was a first political declaration, then years of negotiations in the Council and the Parliament, the proposals that were watered down, and sometimes not even with your remarks and with your feelings. How do you feel? What do you think about proposals? So this European Commission is really determined to change it, and listening to such speakers like Mark Rutte, I think, and I'm quite sure that we could succeed this time. So we are talking about we've been talking about the better regulation for a long time, but now we are trying to make it really a real thing. As we said in 2016 work program, this is not time for business as usual. So we have made 3 big changes in the way that we do things. First, we have prioritized and focused. We prioritize on a yearly basis to focus on where we can deliver the most. This year we have only listed 23 priority actions across the whole Commission, and this in the single market strategy, in the document that I'm responsible for, we also limited ourselves to only 23 actions. This is not even about deciding what we will do. This is much more about deciding what we will not do. Actions where we do not have sufficient resources to make a real difference, we will not do. Actions where there is insufficient added value, or areas where the European Commission and EU generally are not the right level to act, where national authorities, stakeholders are much better placed. We are acting where the EU can make a real difference. This is not an easy process, but I'm very sure that this is the right process. Second, we have looked at how we can best deliver. Sometimes the best way in which we can help is by getting everyone in the same room just to discuss the issue. Last week, I met with mayors from across Europe, and I talked with them about the new public procurement rules. And it was the great opportunity to exchange best practices, and we all, me and them, we all learned a lot. Sometimes we can act by getting national authorities to review their rules and legislation together and see if they still need them. We have been doing this on regulated profession. It has been far more effective than years of negotiations. But of course, for me, third and above all, we have started to break down the silos and exploit synergies. This is a big, even cultural shift for many, not just for the Commission, but also for external stakeholders. For instance, we are looking at how and what we can do on the single market and how it works with the issues and the topics in the Energy Union strategy, at how we do in the digital single market and how it works with what we do in our European investment package. Sometimes, I think even always, taking a view across our work really yields surprising results. Let me give one very simple example. When I took on my post, I really did not expect that I could be involved in the fight against terrorism. But after awful attacks in Paris, I have spent really a large amount of time on firearms legislation and hybrid threats. So we are doing it very much together between few commissioners at least. We are looking at how our efforts can work together to produce results which are much greater than the sum of the parts. What this means in practice, because I really believe this is not an empty theory. This is about practical results. Again, I will give you 3 examples. First, tech startups looking to offer the services cross-border and online. They will gain from the reforms to the copyright regime that we launched at the end of the last year under the Digital Single Market Strategy. They will gain from the startup initiative that we are launching at the end of the year. Soon the consultation process will start. In a few weeks' time, we will start this consultation. They will gain from the greater access to financial instruments under the Capital Market Union, and they will benefit from the VAT action plan that we will release later this year. So like 5 addresses for this kind of companies. Second example, construction companies. They will benefit from the greater funding available under the investment plan. They will benefit from the actions on adequate waste management and recovery of resources that were announced in the circular economic package, extremely important for us. And thank you very much for having you on board with this, because it was important while preparing the circular economy package. Of course, having in mind environmental results, but also have industry and businesses on board, because this is a good business. And it has to be seen through this perspective. They will benefit about construction companies. They will benefit from the more open and effective public procurement procedures that we are introducing under single market strategy. And our planned services passport will be focused on construction, exactly, and business services, including architects. It will make it much easier for those services to access markets in other member states. And third example, cars. We are the starting points, or even not the starting point, because we've been working for this for quite a long time. Volkswagen, because I want to say that Volkswagen was the starting point. Not really. It just accelerated the process. So I proposed a complete overhaul of how we measure car emissions and how cars are approved in the member states. This will restore credibility, and this will restore competitiveness of our industry. It was important, again, for us to keep this competitiveness and to think about this industry as one of the flagship in different sectors of our industries. Digitalization will be a game changer for the automotive industry. It stands to gain from the action in digital single market strategy, on connectivity, and on the free flow of data. This will make it easier to develop autonomous and interconnected vehicles, and will improve mobility and transport safety. And of course, the last point, it stands to gain from the opportunities from the Energy Union strategy for new infrastructure to push electrification of cars. So again, few addresses for one sector. But of course, it is not enough, definitely not for me, to announce measures. It is not enough to make proposals or launch projects. It is even not enough to have a legal agreement. What is the most important? We have to deliver. We have to implement. We have to, get this measure through all of the storms and implement them to the market. In the single market strategy, everyone wants to talk to me, for example, about the services passport and geo-blocking. This is extremely important. Hardly anyone wants to talk about the 6 initiatives all on delivery. The reform of the notification procedures in the Services Directive, the new market information tool, the completely new instrument that we want to create to give us access to the real evidence on what is working, and the new approach that we are taking on the implementation by the member states. So again, something that was noticed by Prime Minister, enforcement. We are getting everyone to discuss and share the information as they implement. It is where most of the results come from. We just need better implementation, better enforcement, better monitoring, and above all, better cooperation from member states and industry. So we need to be very much strong on delivery. As I said before, in the Commission, we are taking a new approach. What we are suggesting, I think, is very practical, not focusing ourselves on new regulation because it takes time, and we have much too much European legislation. We have plenty of it to use it for our goals. Of course, it will not deliver overnight. It will take a step-by-step approach, again, in Polish, krok po kroku. But I think it will deliver if we have your help with this. Definitely member states. That's why, again, I appreciate what was said by the Prime Minister, because for us it's extremely important, highly important. Of course, I listen to such approach or such speeches at the Competitiveness Council, but it's really important to have this support from the member states, because sometimes it's only vocal, not real. Hopefully this time it's really. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Step in several languages. We'll see how many more we can add before the end of the day. But that crucial point that you make, that I know everyone will agree with, which is we need to deliver. The key question, and we've been talking about it all day, is where are those key areas of focus that you highlighted, Commissioner, in order to deliver? Where do those priorities need to be, and how do we make sure we deliver on those? So thank you very much for coming, for your inspiration for our discussion. I know you have a busy schedule, so won't be able to stay for the whole session, but it's fantastic to have had you with us. Thank you very much again.